Good afternoon, friends, and welcome to the May 2023 reading for the Monterey Bay Poetry Consortium. My name is Kent Latham. I'm the coordinator for this series, and I'm representing our larger team this afternoon, as several of our other team leaders couldn't be here, had other commitments. So this is our 37th Zoom-based event online here. Prior to COVID, we met in person each month at Old Capitol Books in Old Town Monterey on the Monterey Peninsula. But we feel extremely fortunate to have been able to not only continue our series online and uninterrupted ever since 2020, but to expand our audience and readers, our guest list, to include folks from around the country and around the world. And we're really grateful to this platform for allowing everyone to maintain healthy and inclusive access. With that said, some of you who were here in March, know that we experienced a grotesque and juvenile Zoom bombing attack in our previous reading. So there's a few extra security precautions today. We had the waiting room set up, all that stuff to make sure that we don't have a repeat incident of that. With that said, unfortunately, if it does happen, if someone finds a way to hack in, despite everything, I will just shut down the reading. We'll find a way to maybe, give a kind of a pre-recorded option for our two feature poets to continue for the online archive. But hopefully it won't happen, and thank you for your understanding in case it should. Our poetry is wise and resilient, but no one needs to be subjected to the malicious malarkey of teenagers with nothing better to do with their lives. So hopefully this beautiful space will stay safe and uninterrupted today. As many of you know, the Monterey Bay Poetry Consortium is a community of poets in, from, and affiliated with California's Central Coast region. We are the oldest continuously running literary series around Monterey County, going strong for over 20 years now, and carrying on the tradition established by our founder and dean, John Lowy, who created this group as a former local chapter of the National Writers Union. We're extraordinarily grateful to John for making this possible many years ago. We've been graciously hosted by many local bookstores and coffee shops, most recently in pre-pandemic times by Old Capitol Books. And even though we're keeping the series online for a while longer here, we're still enthusiastically encourage you to support them, patronize them, make the most of keeping all of your local bookstores and literary distributors alive and moving forward. They need our help and we're grateful to them. You're also always welcome to befriend us on our Facebook page and encouraged to check out all of our previous readings on our YouTube channel, which we will continue to keep updated as we move forward. 3 years of poetry readings is a tremendous archive, a tremendous resource. And we're really excited that someone could spend an entire day listening to these readings from the past 3 years without needing to stop if they wanted to. So today, we're even more excited to hear from two wonderful Central California poets, JOANNA Martin and Mylo Schaaf. Each author will read for about 20 to 25 minutes. Our tradition is to go alphabetically by last name, so JOANNA will read first, followed by Mylo, and I'll introduce each of them before they share their own poems. But real quick, first, before we get to our poets, we also want to recognize that today is a deeply meaningful and emotional holiday for many people. So thank you, everyone in our audience, for potentially interrupting Mother's Day celebrations to share time with us. And please know that whether you are rejoicing in being or having a mother today, or whether this is a sadder, more memory-haunted square on the calendar because of losses and absences, I hope we can all agree that there's no better way to cherish our relationships, preserve our memories, and guide each other toward more nourishing futures than through this gift of poetry and this gift of community. So happy Mother's Day. And as Julia Kasdorf says in her poem entitled, "What I Learned from My Mother," I learned from my mother how to love the living. I learned to create from another's suffering my own usefulness. And once you know how to do this, you can never refuse. All right, without further ado, please sit back, get comfy, enjoy a mug of tea or a glass of vino. Prepare to immerse yourself in some beautiful, inspiring poetry here this afternoon. Our first reader, JOANNA Martin, has published 2 books with Hummingbird Press, The Meaning of Wings and Where Stars Begin. Her work has also been published in various literary journals, including the Monterey Poetry Review, Caesura, and Red Wheelbarrow, among many others. She has been writing poetry and living in Santa Cruz for many years. She works at Dominican Hospital as an RN. Thank you for that. And this is at least, I think, her third time reading for us here in the last few years. So we're extraordinarily grateful to have you back again today. Joanna, over to you.
Can you hear me? Thank you everyone for coming. It's lovely to see you all. It's very interesting to read on Mother's Day. When I was asked, it was like, okay, Mother's Day, very interesting to me. And so I decided I was inspired to select poems of mine that relate to motherhood. And I'm going to read about my own mother and my grandmother, but also our Mother Earth, the Virgin Mary Mother, the Goddess, and back around again to the everyday mother, our neighbor, our friends, ourselves, as motherhood, mothering brings out the goddess in us. So I went back through, and some of these poems are 20 plus years old, and they're from these few first ones I'm going to read are from my first book. Novena. As we enter the church from the noise and light of a Los Angeles day, the enclosure embraces us, my grandmother and me. A dusky silence, intimate, even within the vast space of the nave that, to my child's eye, seems to span the edge of existence. We dip our fingers into bowls of holy water, genuflect the sign of the cross, the pungent smell of liquid dripping down our foreheads, scent and taste of tin on our tongues, light through colored windows staining our skin the color of Christ's life. I follow my grandmother down the aisle. Whispers of the other women, roosting mourning doves, rise up as we near the alcove of the Virgin Mary Mother. Glass cups of candled color, frosted white dreams, blue hope, faith scarlet, descend from the statue's feet to the banister rim of kneeling women. Their faces buried behind knitted knuckles, they never look up. Only a collective shifting marks our entrance. Flames the size of thumbnails grace my grandmother's face into and out of darkness as she lights a candle, kneels down, bows her head into fetal position, becomes one of them. Another angel fallen, paying homage to the great mother, the one who gave untainted birth, the Holy Ghost shimmering on her shoulder. My grandmother prays for those she knows in trouble, those she's lost and those she'll never know, the starving, the war-torn, the martyred, the unbaptized, prays indiscriminately. And as she prays, she begins to rock. Old woman, I watch as she transforms, her whispers braiding with the murmurs of the rest. Incantation, immersion, a flowing river, the stones, their bowed heads. My grandmother teaching me suffering, a woman's skill. Suffering and the release from it, the mystery of misery and grief, the ritual of candles wicking sorrow into flame, the faith it takes to cull the depths of pain out of the musty darkness. Give it color, give it breath, give it wing. Allow life this small continuing. So that poem was over 20 years old, and this book is over 20 years old. It's called The Meaning of Wings. And it was interesting to dive back in because I haven't really looked at these poems for a long time. And so I'm going to read a few more from this book. And I'm happy to say that after 20 some years, I still like the poems. So This one is called Primitive Divinity. Between the purple storms of philosophers cracking the sky wide open white with lightning philosophies, at the outskirts of technology's campfires, eluding the hum of science, packaging up the shriek of the wild, beyond thought, sidestepping economics, covering everything like acid rainfall, within, yet outside all borders, evading all political systems, at the center of the mandala of all religion, nestled where east and west, axis and horizon, matter and spirit intersect and hang on the cross. There, the same directionless woman squats on haunches, supporting her torso's arch. Delicate, light-reflecting crescent, part beast, part goddess, scoops out from her blouse one aching breast, mute as a planet. The pink nipple descends, fills the black hole of humanity's wailing lips, suckles it. Sand Carrier. And this was inspired by an article I read about, it was about Mali in Africa. She works against wind, undoes what it shapes each night, starts at dawn after it quiets, scoops out a path from the muffle of sand, defines the perimeter of a courtyard. She works all day for a bag of rice, a shroud of black cloth wrapped around her head, down the length of her body, protection from the desert heat. The bright sun sinks into the weave, a gray cast. Sometimes a thin gloss of blue-black shimmers along her bent back, and the cloth ruffles up like feathers as she unfurls her body, lifts the bowl she has filled with sand, holds it close. The sheen of light slides off her back then, like water or sorrow. She glides rather than steps across the line of horizon, as if shadow, as if bodiless, a mirage, the only thing uncovered, a pair of eyes. I'm gonna read a poem from a book called Unearth. It's a group of poets that I've been with for 30 plus years, the Emerald Street Poets. And we did an anthology during the pandemic. We were so bored, no. So, so this is one of the poems that I have in that anthology. Relearning piano during shelter in place. My mother taught me to play as a child. Her lily white hands, fingers floating over water keys, muffled hum deep in her throat. In the cradle of piano, she became child again. I could love her on that piano bench. If she were alive now, sheltering in place, how long would it take before she got that wild-eyed look, hair flying up like crow feathers, shrill words rising to a cawing scream, pacing from room to room, careening before she hit the walnut credenza, displaying Aunt Bella's china, magnolia blossom plates rimmed in gold, works of art just asking to be knocked over. Turning as her leg grazes the table, stopping mid-stride before bruising her hip on that shelf of travel books and bric-a-brac beside the fireplace. As a child at the piano, our hearts tuned to the key of G, Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. I could shelter from my mother while sitting beside her. 45 years later, I shelter here again. My fingers doing acrobatics across the keys, dispelling my own crow tendencies. At the piano bench beside my mother's ghost, reviving our beautiful melodic melodies. A second book that I have with Hummingbird Press is Where Stars Begin. And that book's 10 years old. I'm due for a book. So this is called Kauai. Feral cats hide along the roadside at dusk in caves of shadowed sugar cane. Pockets of dark breathe at rhythmic intervals. A foghorn marks distance. In turn, as sun sizzles to ocean, scarlet light flushes out each cat, illuminates shocked eyes caught in sun's last flash. White one with the pirate eye, tabby, a pure black, each cast bodiless, a gold-etched apparition. Cat saint haloed in an alcove. For an instant, everything is flipped, becomes cat negative, as if goddess is earth deep inside any one of us. So I'm a cardiac nurse. I've been doing that for 37 years. And I do have nursing poems throughout my books. My first book, The Meaning of Wings, has nursing poems in the whole center section. And then this book has just a few nursing poems scattered throughout. And so I'll read one of those that seems to relate to being a woman or Mother's Day. A broken heart syndrome, also known as takosubo, which means octopus trap in Japanese. The syndrome was discovered in Japan, and so they got to name it. Less known, less understood, it can still be fatal. The once plump heart takes on different shapes, as if held in a vice grip, or a girdle pulled tight at the waist, becomes hourglass shaped, buxom at the top, figure of the perfect woman. Disguised on X-ray like an octopus in the dark, only when the heart's arteries are filled with dye is heart's new shape revealed, netted in the vessel's glowing outline. Amazing how such a strong muscle can collapse in the middle, twist instead of pump, wring blood out, limp dish rag. Without enough blood pumped to even feed itself, the stunned heart cries, mimics perfectly the classic heart attack. If questioned, perhaps the patient, usually an older woman, could speak of tragedy, divorce, or war or death. Nothing a cardiologist could fix. This poem was published in Monterey Poetry Review, I think last spring, I'm not sure exactly. I've had so many published there. No, I've had a few, but anyway, it's a great magazine, by the way. We so appreciate your magazine and your show. So this is called Arana Gulch Experimental Outplanting of Santa Cruz Tar Plant. That's the title. We bend to plant 500 seedlings, How long the wait for right conditions? A rising sea breeze ripples our limbs. Clouds of crow lift, archival magicians. Even their careening crow shadows remember coastal hillsides burgeoning. How long, dormant seed bank beneath this meadow, with yellow tar plant blossoms, circling, their wings silver as they angle towards sun. Unreal time, fill sky with ancient ranting, as we transformed the land with our green thumb, transfixed in our downward facing planting, our prayer to Gia's mysterious frailties, another endangered species. The title of that poem was sort of a found title because it was actually the title of the article about it in our local newspaper. So I was fascinated with that. And I went to the site where they were planning it. So this is an ekphrastic poem that I wrote that David Sullivan, when he was poet laureate here in Santa Cruz, he invited people to write poetry based on works of art of local poets. And this is the, it's a woodcut by Hannah Bork. I don't know if you can see it at all, but I was really fascinated by it. And it's, so I went ahead and wrote the poem, and it's called Life-Giving Vessel. The newscaster says, the war could end if the mothers rose up, slumbering in their coffin beds, drifting in the Caspian Sea, naked bodies floating, landlocked, somnolent, serene, beneath a blue sun. The mothers don't know their sons are dead. The newscaster from the West continues. The information suppressed, and other mothers don't know their sons will be next. When they find out, will they take to the streets, risk getting shot at by more sons of more mothers? Does this mean if we were all mothers, if men could give birth, there would be no war? It was interesting to write the poem because I never would have written it without the woodcut. It never would have happened. So it brought out something completely from the blue, which was really exciting and interesting. Do I have some time left or? Okay, because I have two more. One's pretty long, but this one's shorter. Dancing in the park after sheltering in place. Beneath the canopy of a maple tree, we ladies twirl our skirts. Ballerinas trapped in little girl's music box, unopened for 3 months. Newly released, we turn in mirror memory. Lovely pink tutu prima ballerina, purple crepe ball gown belle of the evening. Dance to a trio harmonizing Beatles songs. All the lonely people. Unfrozen, we step from a Degas painting. Rush stroke skin of our limbs, giddy with newfound freedom. Complete the arabesque began last century. In the grace of our shadows silhouette. Another era, please. Innocent, naive, elegant. Here comes the sun. Out of our caves, we dance in a tribal circle. The shadow of maple leaves tattooing our faces. Dance the dance from the beginning of time, out of our minds. Lucy in the sky. Our skirts shape the lines of our thighs, furl at our ankles. We pound out a flamenco crescendo with diamonds. Undulate a belly dance from hips through fingertips, our undyed hair silvering under a day moon sky. I dance in Santa Cruz. I follow some bands and we all dance, friends of ours. This is Santa Cruz, you know. And we couldn't dance for a year or two. So we just went wild when a band that we know was actually doing kind of bootleg performances in Sky Park. It was like all hush hush. We would just call each other and go. It wasn't really supposed to be happening. So we were just crazy about it. It was just this great experience. And this last poem is, it's really long, and it's from another anthology that our group did. It's called Harvest from the Emerald Orchard, and you can't get copies anymore. So, so this poem was written in 2003, so 20 years ago. And it's, I was 20 years younger and I was trying to write political rants, and I don't do that. And I haven't done very many, just a couple, but they were very popular 20 years ago here in town. And so I wrote this one, and I'm going to try and read it like a rant. It's a total stream of consciousness thing. Corner of Montana and 15th, Santa Monica, 3603. A tan man with a muscular frame that is softening, aging ex-bodybuilder talks to a man with a leather coat, worn enough to have character, standing next to his motorcycle, about what % of the population is in prison, how oil will pay for the Iraqi invasion, how arrogant, crazy the Bush administration. An exact conversation I heard in Santa Cruz the other day, as if their words displaced here like birds that have migrated south outside the parking lot of Wild Oats Market across the street from Cal-Fed Bank, a black security guard pacing its perimeter like a caged animal, singing clips of songs under his breath, or is it poem lyrics? Kitty corner from Spec Tech, largest in eyewear fashion against a backdrop of cars, braking, stopping, turning left, a girl in sweatpants, walking an oversized white poodle, pigeons circling the base of a street with new leaves budding, that fresh green that doesn't know itself yet, and pointed spores hanging like Christmas tree ornaments, or stars, or smart bombs, and how 1/4 of the world's incarcerated are in prison in the United States. It's big business, more than in Russia and China combined. 2 women waiting at the bus stop with rolled yoga mats until the bus comes, pulls over, eats them alive, a sprinkling of pedestrians, young mother pushing a stroller, then 2 minutes later, another, 2 children carrying sweaters, backpacks, school must be out, a gentle breeze blowing off the coast. On this sunny day, just a cloud or two, the perfect kind, like in the storybooks, any hint of smog completely washed away. And I swear it is the most beautiful, perfect blue sky I have ever seen here on this day of March 2003, even with all of us held hostage for weeks now, suspended on the knife blade of a war threat, hoping no one gets sliced. The 2 men enumerate all the crimes of Bush and Cheney and that witch Condoleezza Rice. Not all blacks are cool like you think, man, but the most shocking thing is a woman who walks by, homeless, mumbling, her hair a wild spray of gray, her skin sunburned already and not yet spring. And when she looks at me, I see she has fungus growing on her face, rimming her eyebrows, its brown and black texture riding roughshod over her cheeks, coursing up her neck, shadowing her jaw, as if she is becoming tree, wearing a tattered plaid man's shirt and gray sweatpants, so worn at the seams they are split. And as she passes, I see the back flaps open, then close with each step, reveal a wedge of naked buttocks. And I see now the edge of the pants are stained brown. She must be 70 or 75 years old. And of all the homeless I've seen, This one has the capacity to shock me, although everyone else ignores, doesn't even seem to see, yet she has enough presence of mind to turn back, ask me, do you have $1? How can she ask for $1 and not see the mold growing at the back of her hands? I reply, like I always do to the homeless, not today, sorry, not today. I watch as she turns away, and I think, has Mother Earth herself risen up to ask me for $1? And have I said no? Is this what she looks like these days? Always my generosity comes dripping later in guilt form, hobbling behind, crippled by my fear, my lack of action, my perpetual no to every situation. As the two men beside me close out their conversation, commenting on the budget for education, the fear of every John Doe sitting in his little mortgaged home, frightened like rabbits, they wave, goodbye, 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 as Mother Earth disappears up the sidewalk, spilling over, almost on fire. Such an abundance of sunlight. Anyway, anyway, I think maybe that's my time. And I'm really looking forward to hearing Mylo's poetry. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you so much, Joanna. That was fantastic. I know I speak for the room. Everyone's doing their silent applause and clap and jazz hands and everything here. Yeah, thank you for all of that.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yeah, every time you mentioned, oh, this is a 10-year-old poem or a 20-year-old poem, or a previous generation in your a previous chapter of your life, and I'm thinking, I only found out about maybe 5 years ago or so that the first known poet in all of world history to put their own name to their work, to not just say, oh, this is, we have older poems by anonymous sources, or we have older cultural poems or tribal poems, but the first human to sign their own work was the Sumerian priestess Enheduanna 4,000 years ago. She was the high priest of the moon, and she not only wrote her poems, but she also, led her people into battle and called down the wrath of the goddess, upon the people who are killing people for no good reason, and upon the corruption, upon the the sexism and racism and everything that's wrong with the world. And Sappho 1,000 years later, and Amanda Gorman 2 years ago, and all of the women who have said, this is a rant, this is a love song, this is an homage and a tribute and a lament. And yeah, thank you for being part of that tradition. May we have a more femme centered and femme focused world as we move forward every day, so that people don't have to work against the wind, as you said in one of your earlier poems. May you work with the wind. May we sail with the wind in our life-giving vessels, instead of against it constantly. I don't know if anyone watched the Peter Jackson Get Back kind of extended explosive documentary about the Beatles' final album, but everyone always talked about how, oh, John and Yoko disrupted, Yoko broke up the Beatles. Like, no, you watch this video and all of their wives and girlfriends were behind the scenes and on stage and in the studio together, and you're like, actually they were making better music when everyone was there, when everyone was having a good time. But I think that's what we got here, the better music today. So again, thank you.
So Ken, don't worry about my introduction. I'll just give a really brief one, because I know I don't want to keep people over. Is that okay?
Oh, well, we'll give you a little bit here. Don't worry. I won't spoil things, but we want to give you a little glory and credit. So yeah, it's time. We'll go quick, but time will be a little elastic here, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I want to give you the credit that you deserve alongside Joanna. So moving forward, folks, Mylo Schaaf here, trained as a journalist, editor, and physician before making a left turn into poetry. She taught medical students about global health issues at UCSF. Her belief in global health grew out of her work and connections in India, the Americas, Liberia, Haiti, and China. And I will let her kind of explain the transition that led her into poetry and that experience, but please know that her poetry has been collected into a lovely book called Blown Into Now, which was published a year ago, 2022 in March, by Passenger Books. Her poems have also appeared in the journals Drunk Monkeys, Monterey Poetry Review, and others. And she has a really lovely website you should absolutely check out. It's her name, first and last name, myloschaaf.com. So please explore more of her work there. Mylo, over to you.
Thank you, Kent. That was really lovely. Okay, so the reason I wrote this book is because my husband Dan and I lost our son quite suddenly. We got a phone call. He was 24, a mountaineer, peace and conflict scholar and veteran, and he had passed away. And so that unleashed this avalanche of poems, of which I'll read 8, and then I'll read a couple more from that are just in other themes. So the first one is a poem I want to share as I would share a photo to give you a portrayal of our son, Alex. And it's entitled, I Want You. So it's beginning the book. I want you, how Alex spoke to wild earth. I want you, when midnight cold lies on the shoulder of your land and I can't sleep. Trees drop snow on my tongue. All is black. When the break of dawn sears the rim of sky, minarets of chimney rock toss shadow down, down into nothing. I want you when my cheek and sweat cool against your marbled cliff. A band of quartz runs beneath my body and colors the scarp and jag. Or when I kneel in beating sun and trail sand, there is no sound, there is no scent, but mint and pennyroyal. I want you when light breaks water on a ruffle of wind. Below, in green mud, a lattice flickers, lit like cut glass. Or when humans call to me with stories and marvels that I can't understand and I must leave, but I'll find you in quiet or wild. I want you most when my days end, when those who love me bring my bone dust back. They throw me from a mountaintop beneath a covey of stars, and from there we'll travel on. So when my son passed, I didn't know what to do or how to move forward. And so I started asking people, friends and strangers. And one of the reasons I decided to publish my book was to share their strategies and wisdom. So this was a poem originally published by Passenger Press, and the book is published by Blue Light Press. This is entitled Rituals of Friends. I try each day, he whispers, to find color and light in the world again. For if I could unblind, my son is not gone. I wear Suzanne's clothes, she explains slowly. In her gloves, I feel her, and I talk to her children every week, and I talk to her grandchildren. He holds my arm. I have pictures of Phoebe, he says, beside candles, maybe 50. Sometimes I light all of them. Still, he holds my arm. When I meet someone, I describe Phoebe first, and I have a place where I watch for her, a sacred tree hidden among pine and manzanita. They turn toward me, and I want to tell them, I keep his unwashed shirt, and alone I breathe cotton and coils of memory. This is entitled Promise of the Elements. So a friend lent us a beach house where my husband and I could escape for a time, and the elements, rain and sun, enfolded us. And I even heard the voice of snow, although it was imaginary, there wasn't snow on the beach. And this poem came about with rain speaking in the first stanza, then snow, then sun. Promise of the elements for all who mourn. And when you cry, I will find you. When you're breaking or empty and you can't speak, close your eyes, lean your head back. Feel my silver fingers loosed from above to wash free your fears. Or call to me when I climb on a northern wind, or when I dive like a seabird uncaged. Always I will come by summer's end, a cloud of flesh thick on meadow grass, to quiet you with a blanket. Or when someday the white, gray, and black shiver and dissolve, I will make you warm. I will return with unwalked sand, with streaming jubilee sky, with a ribbon of pelicans that skim the waves like kites. May these offerings open you like a diamond knife, open again, a light. And this one is Jewels and Claws. One of the remarkable experiences I had during the years following Alex's passing was the visitation by a number of tiny creatures like praying mantis or grasshoppers of all shapes and sizes. I also noticed larger creatures like crows following me for surprising distances. Before grief captured me, I had never seen a praying mantis in the Bay Area. So I understood these brief appearances as bits of comfort or hellos from somewhere beyond. Jewels and Claws. Fall holds the land like a lover, taking off her robes of cloud, jeweling her daybreak with a glaze of slanted light, soothing the wind to a faint, warm breath. Into the stillness on white sidewalk, a praying mantis jumps. I reach to rescue him and he holds me with tiny claws as if he could not leave me here. So the summer after Alex passed, my husband and I, along with a friend of Alex's, flew to India, where Alex had always meant to travel. And our purpose was to visit the shrines and sacred places of the great religions. We wanted to understand how people from those different religions saw death. We brought some of Alex's ashes and left a trace at each hallowed site, bearing the locket through India. Low-couraged and thirsty for grace, we spill your ashes from our palms on Rama's feet in Kerala, adrift on waves of Ganges fled, with monks beneath the Bodhi tree, in Ujmir, thrown with rose toward tomb, and blowing at last through the great Tar Desert. The day we leave, my locket breaks. So on the eve of the second year of Alex's passing, we came to Yosemite and sat on a patio, Dan and I and our son Stefan. The patio cover was not attached yet, and above us there were metal struts that were framing the sky. And the title is Day 729. In this season, meadows nap and trees hold court, while needles fade and leaves fly off in waves of red glory as wind exhales. In this long month, the genie of your spirit absorb our thoughts. We refuse the weight of the unimportant, escaping to this range of light, where forest and canyon listen for your footsteps. On this warm day, We sit inarticulate at the edge of a wood, while just above, outlined by blue, a praying mantis climbs in and out of sight. And this is, let me just read you this one first. This poem describes a place. When I heard about it, it was called the most beautiful park in the world, which, how could anyone make that claim when our world is huge and lovely in thousands of different ways? But then we hiked up a ridge in Patagonia and came across a circle of giant rocks enclosing a turquoise pool. We were alone, and we stood in silence, caught by the wild that Alex loved. It's called Held by Breath. Suppose you are wandering, not quite lost, toward a shout of sun. Cold has vanished your face, your limbs. Before you, the unknown cirque of rocks, tumbled together as if by giant troglodytes, long before prayers became songs. Snow drapes itself, fresh as an evening gown, and the pool twinkles back sky, flaunting a blue you wish you could taste or hear or remember. Everything around you breathing. And this is the last poem in the book called Promise. The poem is called Promise Mountain. And this is bringing Alex back to a place he loved. Promise Mountain. When I ask, not one of us remembers who carried your weightless box up the hot, steep trail, past the grasshoppers with regal gaze, and the one striped banana and lime, and another dried in the dust. But like a flashbulb photo, we recall, distinct against our white shirts, grasshoppers that followed us, dozens, then hundreds, leaping ledge to rock, swerving and crashing like a motocross, humming like a mammoth transmission station. Under our boots, the scree tumbles and slides while we argue with old words about the safety of leaving our packs. But they're heavy, impossible to hide. We drop them, climbing on, past the shoulder of mountain, to a broad peak where you stood 3 times, where this twist of wind takes you from our fingers to the blue of yonder's wide. All right, so changing directions. This was during COVID, and this poem appeared. In the exotic heart of a walk. It's not a matter of sneaking. Just skirt that plastic fence, orange as a popsicle. Cross the parking lot where the crows peck at bare sand. Over the rail bridge and through the bushes, the door of air opens. Gravelly gray, not brick yellow, footpath, not road. Wind is poking at the dreamy river, which roars, or maybe that's the highway. Blackberry arms reach from the hedges, wearing bracelets of fat, ripe sweetness. All the trumpets on the vine play lavender tunes, and the great blue heron curls his pretzel yogi neck. You want to walk forever, but cigarette smoke is blowing into your face from the open window of a slick white truck, and you're back in the parking lot for now. So I want to read for sure 2 poems about my mother, because today's Mother's Day. When her memory was better, I would ask her questions, and her answers were like snapshots from yet another time when we needed courage and toughness. Perhaps, she said, it was a long, fast swing dance. And this is based on a quote from Evely Groschultz, who said, "Who will believe me later when I say we lived in a state of music?" So here's the poem. I want to hold her, press her memories into me, but she has the bones and flesh of a hummingbird. Cleveland? I ask. In 29, we had the great crash. When I was 5, I fed our chickens, Ruby, Shirley, Ginger. At Christmas, my father broke their necks. There was always about enough. World War II? We saved old rubber boots, raincoats, pots, tin cans, rags, kitchen fat for bombs, they said. Can all you can. I walk back past that poster every day. My brothers fought, but they came back. She struggles to sit on her hands, palm down, to pad the hardwood chair. California? That was my first flight. We landed in LA, a tiny runway on a gigantic green carpet, orange trees in rows and rows, clouds of citrus perfume. I wore my silk scarf and white gloves. I had $100 saved in my purse. Your work? OR nurses must be precise to pass the exact scalpel or clamp. A surgeon, your father, my life's love, smiled at me behind his black mustache, and we married. By hospital rules, I had to quit. 3 kids in 5 years. We did our best for them. I graduated college in art history when I was 55. That picture is on my desk. But how did it feel? Her face goes blank, eyes snickering. She lifts her skinny arms, contracting both biceps, each fist clenched in the air like a weightlifter. I don't think we asked. And given time, this is the last one. And toward the end of my mother's life, she moved into assisted living and then into memory care. Every day she was waking up in some wondrous present for her. For her, some wondrous present. It's called Under Tomorrow's Sky. Fried eggs return her gaze. Sometimes she wants to sit alone, ignoring the clatter of plates, like a distant sun or a morning star. 93 pounds of muscle and bone. She clears each patio crack, lifting her walker, shifting her weight, a horsewoman at the jump. She bypasses the umbrella shade to choose a warm metal bench beneath the mesmeric cobalt sky. Sometimes you cannot visit. Sometimes you settle beside her and she leans forward, a whiff of Shalimar, a stash of reusable answers when memory takes a nap. You reach for her folded hands. Her eyes shout what a lady can't. Thank you for coming. If only you could stay. Afternoon fades, but tomorrow will rise, wrapping her in the quilt of each moment. Thank you so much for listening to me today.
Whew. Wow. I want to remain hypnotized in the spell of your work and your words and your wisdom and your compassion, Mylo. That was absolutely transcendent. I mean, there are no words for your loss of Alex and for your mom. And yet you found them, right? I mean, this is what we say, like, oh, there are no words for grief. There are. That's why we have poets. That's why we share these words. And I think the ability of taking the inarticulate and the ephemeral and the emotional and saying, no, make them elemental, make them quartz and mint and pennyroyal and praying mantises and a covey of stars, the voice of snow, a shout of sun, a blue you wish you could taste or hear, the wondrous present under tomorrow's sky. I mean, vines wearing bracelets of blackberries, like every single thing that you directed us back toward an awareness of brought the world alive again, right? And, maybe not the people we've lost, maybe not the ones we've loved, but the world in which we've shared.
Yeah.
Was
Well, thank you so much.
absolutely.
And thank you again to the people to all of you who are here, especially on Mother's Day.
Yeah, absolutely. May each of us live so as to be loved, to be worthy of poems such as these by Mylo and Joanna. Just what a gift you've given us. And I know we have mothers in the audience. I guarantee we have 100% children in the audience. Whatever the relationships were. So may we all go forth and encourage that love, encourage that connection with everyone we meet, whoever they are, however they are. So yeah, thank you all for joining us today. To make it formal here before we stop the recording, please do be sure, friends, to stay tuned for next month's reading. Again, this series happens the second Sunday of every month, which is why we're always on Mother's Day each year. Second Sunday of every month from 2 to 3 p.m. On Zoom for at least the time being, moving forward through the summer. Next month in June, on June 11th, we'll be showcasing the returning talents of wonderful poets Sally Ashton and Lauren Crux. It'll be another absolutely marvelous and inspiring afternoon, I know. Again, please do be sure to befriend us on Facebook and follow our videos on YouTube. Both of those are simply named the Monterey Bay Poetry Consortium. And if you do have any questions or anything you'd like to reach out to connect with me about, my email is there in the chat. Please feel free to be in touch. Again, thank you for being here. Have a safe, lovely, wonderful rest of your weekend. We hope to see you in a month. And may the love of poetry be with all of us. So thank you so much, folks.